Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Thank you for tuning in to the JMU Sports News Podcast. Before we jump into the podcast, we have a quick word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue to march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Welcome into another edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I am Bennett Conlin. I'm joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. Jack, we got a guest this time too.
We have a guest. We teased it on last night's Twitter space. Maybe they were going to usurp Chase Kitty as the number one guest on the JMU Sports News Podcast. I'll throw Chase a bone. We'll separate the two, rankings. We'll go non-athlete. So Chase, of course, is number one there. And then we'll go athlete. I think Jailyn makes a run at Harry O'Kelly for number one.
Yeah, Jailyn Ford, a very impressive softball pitcher, was a star at JMU, almost was one of the key leaders that took the team to Oklahoma City. They fell one game short. I think it was 2016 when that happened. I got my years right, but they came really close.
You're right.
She helped develop. That sounds right. Something like that. She helped develop.
I was a freshman. And
okay.
my freshman year is 2015-16. So it would have been 16.
Yeah. So she was unbelievable. And then she's played professionally in the United States a bit, but then also in Japan. So we talked to her about what that is like. I really want to go see a softball game in Japan now.
Yeah. Who's going to put us? We all start a GoFundMe or something. And then once COVID dies down a little bit more, I feel like that would be such an awesome atmosphere. She'll talk about it, but it sounds like it'd be like, I don't want to give away too much of what it is, but it sounds more lit than a JMU football game.
Yeah, it sounds pretty intense and fun. And it's kind of similar, I think, if you see like some of the like Japanese baseball and things like that, they take that really seriously and the crowd loves it. So I think that'd be a ton of fun, but it was cool to talk to her about what it's like to play over there. And then we talked to her about she's landed on the U.S. national team for the World Games, which will be in July in Alabama. Only 15 players and 3 alternates made that for the U.S. side. To be one of those, it's unbelievably impressive. I think she beat out Odyssey Alexander, among others, at a tryout. So super impressive. We talked to her about that. And then, of course, we talked about Women's College World Series. I feel like any JMU softball conversation for the next 5 years is going to have some Women's College World Series mention.
Maybe until the next time they make it.
So maybe this year.
All right. Well, take it away, future Bennett and Jailyn and Jack, and enjoy the interview.
We now welcome on a very special guest, Jailyn Ford, one of the best pitchers in JMU softball history, and also quite a hitter as well. Jailyn, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Very grateful to be here. So thanks.
Awesome. I think we should start with your recent naming to the U.S. national team for the World Games. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
A tremendous honor. It looked like a team of 15. Is that right? So it seemed like there was, I guess you can take us through the process, but a group of players went and kind of tried out, and looks like you were one of the 15 to actually make that cut.
Yeah, I think they ended up inviting 40 some players, and it whittled it down to 15 at the end with 3 alternates. So 18 of us will get the opportunity to represent USA for the World Games, and they'll kind of fill in some of those other tournaments throughout the summer. But no, very lucky, very something I'm looking forward to, and something definitely that I've tried to achieve, I guess, throughout my career, which is cool.
What was the tryout process like, and how do they tell you at the end there that you're on the roster? I know some of us have obviously gone through like tryouts and things before, but never on a stage like that. I imagine it's wildly intense and competitive given how talented some of the players are who didn't make the roster.
Right. And I think it just, for me, I guess, being as it was my first tryout, it kind of shed some light on how difficult that process is for, us as athletes, but also for them as like on the committee to make that decision. But they really based it off of, we did some skill evaluations the first day and then just live situations. So as a pitcher, we threw to every batter once. And then every hitter got to face every batter. So, just kind of judged off of that. And then that took about 4 days. And by the end of it, they sent you home and you got an email the following day, kind of letting you know whether you're on the team. So when that time slot came out on Friday, we were all kind of hanging around our phones or on social media waiting for that announcement. So it was really cool.
Wow. That's awesome. What was it like for you kind of waiting for the email? Are you someone who's refreshing the email constantly? Do you try to kind of wait and focus on other stuff? How do you deal with that process?
No, I was actually, I really had no expectations going into it. I just went to try out to, I don't know, have fun, see what could happen. Had no expectations. So when that time came around, I wasn't on social media. I didn't really hang around my phone. I wanted to know, but I didn't at the same time. But so it took probably 20 minutes. And then I got some texts that started rolling in just with the congratulations. So that was kind of cool just to wait and see how things kind of played out.
Awesome. So then that's in July. That's right.
Yes. Yep. In Alabama.
Gotcha. So then what's the next few months look like for you? I think we're talking to you and you're in Japan right now. Is that right?
I am. Yep. I just landed yesterday. But yeah, I'm here for the next, I guess, 4 months, June. And I'll go straight to the Canada Cup, and then I'll play a couple weeks there with USSSA Pride, back to Team USA, just kind of bouncing back and forth throughout that summer. But I'm pretty much playing the next 9 months, which is really, really cool, really fun. But yeah, bouncing all over the place.
That's awesome. Can you take us through the professional journey for you? Because I think a lot of people are familiar with JMU softball and that schedule, but maybe don't know what it's like as a professional softball player who's playing in the States and in Japan.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty unique. It's very, I guess at times can be time consuming and demanding, but that, you get paid to play softball, so you can't really complain about that. But yeah, it just varies depending on where you play. I've been lucky to play in Japan where you kind of work softball. You don't really play it. So we practice here 6 hours a day. The other girls on my team work in the mornings, so busy with that aspect. But from there, with Pride, we do a little bit more normal, kind of like college-like practices, and just kind of keeps you busy and keeps you in the game and giving back to the girls too. There's a lot of cool opportunities with Pride that we're able to host some events and some tournaments to be able to, give back the knowledge that we've received and really teach that next generation about the future, I guess, of softball and the ability to play post-college. So being able to play overseas or play in Japan or play in the United States and just having more opportunities, which is great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you've been in Japan for a while, or at least played there a while. How many years is it now that you've played in Japan?
I'm going into my 6th season, so my 6th year. Crazy. Didn't think it would happen, but
yeah. What's the cultural adjustment been like for you from year 1 in Japan to now? I guess how is everything with language and teammates and all that good stuff?
It's really I think it's grown me a lot and really opened my eyes to a little bit more understanding of different cultures, different people, different languages. But I know that first year after coming from JMU in Virginia and kind of being in my Virginia bubble, it was like a big shock, just with food and the people not being able to understand or get around. So I've learned throughout just being able to be understanding and be flexible and just really try to get to know my teammates in other ways. That there's a lot of, whether it's hand gestures or the smile or high fives, just like little things go a long way, regardless of if you're able to communicate or not. So I've learned that aspect. That's
so cool. Yeah. Just the whole process of playing professionally is awesome. And like you were saying, how many hours they spend on the game in Japan, I think is really interesting with the, 6 hours they practicing, all that good stuff. It's maybe different than what some people expected. I was curious too, like coming out of JMU, did you think you would have a chance long term to play professionally full time? What were kind of your thoughts on that?
I was trying to take it year by year, but I really had no plan past kind of 2 years. I was like, I'm going to try this Japan thing for 2 years, and after that, maybe I'll get into coaching or find another job. But I think playing here in Japan and as well as in Australia has really like reignited my passion for the game. And plus, again, you can't really complain getting paid to play softball. So just in that aspect, it's I guess changed, and I would not have believed that I'd be playing 6 years now post college. And hopefully, my goal is now to play for 10 years here in Japan, which is like a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So that's the goal now. Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure. Still taking it year to year, but it's kind of incredible just to still be playing.
Really cool. Yeah. Watching your like senior year at JMU to have it go from there to here is really cool. And I was curious too, what the fan atmosphere is like for games in Japan. And I think some fans here are probably seeing like Athletes Unlimited and what they brought up, and maybe some of the stuff with the Pride and things like that. But what's it like playing in Japan in terms of the fan base?
The fan base here is incredible. If you know anything about Japanese culture, it's that they're very passionate about their sport. And so it really doesn't matter what sport it is. But, we get incredible crowds on a typical year. The past couple years have been a little bit different. But typical year, we get incredible crowds. Our championship games will get 7,000-8,000 fans in the stands. And they've got those little not boomerangs, but the little bangers that they clap around. And so even they have a band too. Most of our teams sponsor like a band from our company. They play throughout, they cheer for us. It's really cool. It's really, it's awesome.
It
That's
sounds
so
like
cool.
I need to get to to get to a softball game. That sounds like a crazy that sounds more intense than some of the JMU games that I've been to.
Oh, they're very passionate and they get into it too. But it's definitely an experience, that's for sure. Cool atmosphere.
That's awesome. Yeah, Jack, we'll have to put that on the bucket list to get out there for one of those. That's
we'll
awesome.
Pitch it to our listeners, see if we haven't been able to get Frisco tickets, but maybe they'll buy Japan.
GoFundMe, yeah.
GoFundMe.
Yeah. Exactly. And then Jack, I guess if you have any, I guess we can transition to JMU and the Women's College World Series. Are there any questions that are kind of popping off your head so I don't dominate the whole conversation?
Oh, no, yeah, it's fine. You just have to figure out, you're trying to learn the Japan, Japan atmosphere of softball. I completely understand that. Well, I think the main, just start with it is during your time at JMU, pitcher, hitter, and everything like that. Then we saw Megan Good, we saw Odyssey. And the first thing that comes to my mind is you don't necessarily see a pitcher-hitter combo that's at an elite level like you see that JMU continuously is pumping out. What is it, the way they recruit? Is it just kind of byproduct of being a mid-major? What is it that has JMU pumping out hitters and pitchers?
Honestly, it's probably a little bit of both. I think, coming into JMU, a lot of us just want to be able to play in any position we can. So I tried to make us a little bit more versatile, I guess. But I think it helped them too, just from a coaching standpoint, being able to, if your pitcher is one of your better hitters, then that frees up another spot in the lineup to have your strongest 9 hitters, hitting. So, I've always encouraged players to continue, whether they're pitchers only or whatever, just to keep hitting or try to play other positions, just to be able to find another spot out there. But yeah, I know as in part of the recruiting process, that was big for me to be able to find a program that allowed me to hit. And I think going into it, just being a mid-major probably helped a little bit, because a lot of the bigger schools don't really want their pitchers getting hurt but I think they really, at least with Coach Dean at the time and Coach Laporte as well, value the athlete. They want athletes. They don't really, not the pitcher only, more versatile. But
yeah, that's so cool. What was it like for you to watch the Women's College World Series run? I don't know how much you were able to watch, but just to track that and see the team go from, it got very, very close when you were there your senior year to making it to Oklahoma City, and it's obviously gotten close before, but to get there and win some games, what was that like from your perspective?
It was incredible to watch their entire journey. I know I followed along throughout their regionals and supers, and then I was actually able to watch them in Oklahoma, which was really cool. But just a very, I guess, proud and prideful moment as I not only of the university but of the softball program, and just to see something. I mean, when I came in, we weren't all that great of a program, and I think just to see the turnaround and to see that culture is still being taught and still being accepted mostly by the players of, that strive for excellence and the strive to be the greatest. So I think it was just incredible to see them not only be at that stage, but also to perform and kind of show the world like, hey, we're here, don't mess with us, sort of thing. It's really, really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was super fun to watch from our perspective. I imagine as an alumni, it must have been really cool to see some of those games that were kind of heart-pounding matchups too.
They were, yep. And if you were ever part of the, I mean, you weren't able to make it to Oklahoma, I guess, but part of the, I guess, kind of the student section or the alumni section, be able to interact with your old teammates and cheer on your team. I don't know. It very happy, like made me so happy just to be there and hear other people cheering for JMU that have probably never heard of them before. So it was really cool.
Could you kind of put into perspective what Odyssey did? Like, not as people who, me and Bennett, we've never played the sport of softball. I don't think we were much of baseball players either. So like, we can't fully wrap our head around what Odyssey did, not only in the Women's College World Series, but throughout the regional and super regional.
It's really hard to put in the words for that too, just because, I feel like it's almost something you have to experience. But from an outsider's point of view, it was just like the way she carried herself and the confidence she portrayed, and just being able to, I want to say, take the team on her back and lead them. Going into a weekend series in the CAA where you're playing 3 games in a weekend, a little bit. When you're at a regional tournament, people have scouted you now and they've seen you. Like, you've got to be at your best, your A game, every pitch. And for her to be that focused and that just intense for 3 or 4 weeks in a row is incredible, because that's not easy to do as an athlete, is to be on for that amount of time. But she really embraced it, and she really helped put JMU on the map. And I know it wasn't just her. I know it was her teammates as well, and they fed into it. But I think they helped in that aspect of just being behind her and helping carry that team to where they were.
That's awesome. I was really interested because I saw Alyssa Humphrey had tweeted recently, like, I think after you made the team, that she wanted to be like you when she grows up. I was curious what the relationship is with the current players and how much contact, I guess, you still have with the program and coaches, and how often you're still able to kind of interact with some of the people in Harrisonburg.
I talk to coaches every now and then. I try to give them just their space. I know as a coaching staff, it's very hectic, and especially this time of season, like you don't ever want to bother them or anything like that. But whenever I'm in town, I try to catch up and get a lunch or get a dinner with them. As for the players, I think Odyssey's senior class, that class last year, was about the last group that I had kind of ties with or knew. So this group, I know a few of them here and there. I know Alyssa Humphreys, I know Meredith Feltz, Taylor Hankins. So there's ones that are there that I'm aware of, but having that communication, just haven't really had that opportunity. I haven't been able to get back. That was the first time I'd seen JMU play in Oklahoma in 5-6 years. So just the timing with Japan and stuff makes it hard to get back and see them, or else I'd be there all the time. But I'd want to be Alyssa Humphreys if I were. I think it's me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see the group of pitchers they've had. I think JMU fans have also been spoiled to go from you to Megan Good, Odyssey Alexander, and now Alyssa. Just an unbelievable group of players. I was interested too for someone like yourself and even Odyssey and Megan. They were kind of under recruited a little bit. What was it like to maybe go into college with a chip on your shoulder, and by the time you're leaving, the amount of accolades you have as someone who probably should have been one of the higher recruits in the country?
Well, for me, it was never really about like the accolades or trying to be the most well-known or anything like that. For me, it was more, I think I wanted to be recruited by UVA at the time, and they just wouldn't give me the light of day. So I knew too I wanted to be a difference maker in a program. I thought JMU would be the perfect fit. So I think going there and just finding that community and finding that coaching staff that supported me and made me competitive and brought out the best in me really helped. And I mean, everything kind of fell into place. I was never going out there to try to be an All-American or to make it to we were trying to make it to World Series, but it wasn't really ever about me or playing with that chip on my shoulder. It was more just, finding that perfect fit and trying to surround myself with people that are going to make me better. And I thought JMU was that perfect place for it. So.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out. I worked at a local newspaper in Charlottesville in the sports section for a couple of years, and I think they could have used a Jailyn Ford in the UVA softball program. That's for sure. I'm sure they're kicking themselves over that lack of recruitment. But yeah, awesome. I was interested as well with just the development of different pitchers, yourself and Megan and Odyssey. What's it kind of like when you're the upperclassman and someone like Megan Good comes in terms of how much you help them develop? How much is it fully coaching staff? I guess, how does that interaction work? It seems like some of those veterans have kind of passed the torch over the years.
Well, one again came in, it made us more competitive. We're two competitive people, and plus when you surround yourself with better people, you just kind of elevate your level of work. And I think that probably happened with Odyssey as well, and then Odyssey with Alyssa. I'm sure it's kind of that kind of trickle down effect. But just being an upperclassman in that situation with Megan, it kind of took her under my wing and helped her with anything she needed. A lot of it was more like out of softball or just the mental aspect of it. But I think in a way we both just complemented each other. We pushed each other. We were always grouped together. We always roomed together. I mean, we still hang out. She's one of my best friends. So I think it's really helped that relationship build. But I just think that having somebody like that on your team and in your pitching staff is huge. And so a lot of it was our coach Dean or coach support, Coach Herzig, but at the same time it was us just day in and day out. We were always in the same bullpens too, so it was back and forth. She threw harder than me, but it didn't make me. I always tried to throw just as hard as she did. So.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. I was interested too, and this is my last one. I don't know if you have anything else, Jack, but kind of following up, you mentioned the national team tryout where every pitcher had to go like one-on-one with the batters. Was there any matchup that was particularly exciting, or where someone got the best of you? What were those one-on-ones like?
It was a tough lineup to begin with. I mean, once I stepped on the field and realized, who I was facing, I was really looking forward to facing the Oklahoma girls because I just saw them rake throughout all the World Series. And even this year, I mean, they just put up ridiculous numbers. So I was looking forward to facing them. And then some of my teammates as well from Pride or from like previous teams, to just being able to compete against them and try to get the upper hand. I feel like that was a good competition-wise, at least. They've seen me, I've seen them. So it's like who can come out this one at bat on top.
Yeah, gosh, I imagine those one-on-ones for everyone were pretty intense. That sounds like something that would be a fun one to have a ticket to, if nothing else. Even just the tryouts would be so much fun to watch. That's
like work fun.
Awesome. Jack, you got anything else?
No, I'm all good. You covered all the bases. No pun intended on that one. My apologies.
Should keep the pun. That was good. Awesome.
Appreciate
well, Jailyn, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time and good luck with the season in Japan.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for all you do, and go Dukes.
What I'm about to say might shock you, but the greatest quarterback of all time is not just a GOAT on the field. He's a GOAT when it comes to investing too. He invests in stocks, crypto, and even art. Have you ever invested in art, Bennett?
I have not. Haven't invested in art. Have not invested in Facebook. Thank goodness. They're taking a dive today, Jack.
Yeah, I saw that. But now you can invest like the GOAT with Masterworks. Masterworks is the investing platform that lets you buy shares representing an investment in art from icons like Picasso, Monet, and Warhol. Art prices actually outpaced the S&P 500 by 164% from 1992 to 2021. In fact, early investors already received over 30% IRR in 2020 and 2021 from the sale of just 2 paintings. This is your opportunity to join 300,000 other members and invest like the GOAT. Plus, you can get priority access with our game day promo. Go to masterworks.art/believe. That's masterworks.art/believe, BLEAV, and see important disclosures at masterworks.io/disclaimer. Well, that was a fantastic interview. I loved every second of it. One thing that stuck out, I even made a note of this because I wanted to kind of talk about it. She said that before she got to JMU, they were kind of a bad program.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to me what money does. Because what I mean by that is, like, it seems because when she got there, that was kind of when football was also then becoming really good. And like when Bourne started directing more money towards the athletic programs as like their 10-year plan to go to the FBS and make that jump to a better conference. And it's just insane that what, like, recruiting well, having good coaches, and like investing in your athletics actually does long term and even short term.
Yeah, they made some facility upgrades too, and they've got a decent little spot over there. They've also had a stretch where they've just landed these like unheralded recruits who became like the best player in the country, which is crazy. But I think it's gotten them to a point where like they don't have to do that anymore. I think in the future seasons they're going to have recruits who like coming out of high school are considered top 50 players. So that's going to be important. And also, like, Virginia has some really good softball in it. We've talked about Virginia kind of being a solid baseball and softball state, and they've done a nice job there. They're also currently better than like UVA and Virginia Tech at softball. Both those teams are kind of on the rise, but yeah, they've done a good job getting them. And I thought kind of fascinating. Did not know that Jailyn Ford wanted to go to UVA coming out of high school. Pretty massive miss by them. She could have been like a program altering player for a team that really has not been able to make the NCAA tournament at all. So that's another one where I'm sure teams like, UVA, Virginia Tech wishes they had actually recruited Jailyn Ford or Megan Good or Odyssey Alexander, but it worked out great for JMU.
Yeah, I agree.
Great conversation though. A lot of fun. Anything
else you want to add? Takeaways, anything like that from it?
Not too much. I thought it was good to have her on, and also I thought it was nice of her to come on. I think we're both really happy with kind of how we've grown JMU Sports News, but at the same time, like, she's in Japan right now and took like an interview for 20 minutes with our blog podcast. So I thought that was very cool.
It is kind of funny how, like, when we not to get too sentimental here, but like at one point we didn't have any guests. We had 20 listeners, and now we're at like 250 listeners, a peek behind the curtain. We get like 250 some listeners per episode. But like when we reach out to beat writers and like former athletes, they normally respond and like are excited to talk to us, which it always feels cool. We've had Shore, Smalls, O'Kelly, Ford. I feel like I shouldn't have listed names because now I'm probably forgetting one. And
those are definitely some of the more notable recent ones for sure. I don't know who else we've had on, but those have been there. We've had some beat writers like you mentioned, and then of course Chase Kitty, huge landing Chase.
Who would have thought that we'd be bringing up Chase 2 times in the podcast?
I will say, I guess, as a transition into some Sunbelt football talk and then into basketball, we're not going to do a ton of Sunbelt on this one because we had a Twitter space. I guess it was Wednesday night with Chase on it, and we talked for over an hour. I think longer than we expected to. Maybe rambled a little bit, but talked about the Sunbelt move. JMU is going to go there in all sports, including – yeah, they are. They are. In all sports, including football in 2022, minus field hockey, lacrosse, and swim and dive, which will soon be in other leagues. We'll find out eventually, it appears. So that's something to keep an eye on. But, yeah, football. They're going to play 8 Sunbelt games and 3 non-conference games, which we already know, next year. And that Sunbelt schedule is going to be released on March 1st, according to Keith Gill, the Sunbelt commissioner. So that's basically the Sunbelt update, unless you had any takeaways from that news.
No, I mean, that Twitter space that we hosted, it's living on our Twitter. So if you head on over to JMU Sports News on Twitter, you can scroll down a little bit and find it in its entirety, skip around. The first probably 45 minutes are actually talking about what it means and the ins and outs of it and kind of our reaction. In the last 45 minutes, we talk with some of the listeners. They ask questions. They talk about their comments, concerns, and we react to it. So it's a really good Twitter space. I thought it was really informational, went a lot of different ways, touched on a lot of different bases. And it was really, really good. But the biggest blow with this Sunbelt move is Corey Hetherman going to Rutgers.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of the Sun Belt. So yeah,
it kind of gives me Lincoln Riley when they go to SEC, moving out to the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I actually did want to talk about this for a couple of reasons. So he's going to be the linebackers coach at Rutgers. The defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, is Joe Harrisimiak, who used to be the head coach at Maine when Hetherman was the D coordinator at Maine. So there's the connection there. Makes sense that he would go and coach with someone who, he used to coach with. Greg Schiano, very good coach, and is the head coach at Rutgers. So like it's a team that seems like it's probably trending upward. The thing that I did see some fans were saying, oh, it's a step down from JMU defensive coordinator. Is it though? Like I don't totally agree with that. Like he knows the people that are there. Schiano seems to have Rutgers pointed in the right direction. They're in the Big Ten. Like if they're really good and they become good defensively, and Harrisimiak gets like a P5 job or something, like he could probably bring him with him. He could probably bring Hetherman with him, or Hetherman could maybe get boosted up or something and be the defensive coordinator at Rutgers. Also, we don't know anything about the guy's life. Like I have no idea why he would want to do something, but there could also be personal reasons why he would want to make a move. I just thought it was weird. People were like, oh, that's so below us. It's like, no, like a position coach on a Big Ten school is not way below JMU defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, there's really, you hit the nail on the head on each part of that. I mean, I saw the same thing. And also, yeah, we don't know his personal life, but I can also guarantee you that a position coach at a Big Ten Power 5 school has a larger pay than the D coordinator at.
That's what I'd be.
like it also in the grand scheme of things, a linebackers coach can probably get a Power 5 coordinator spot a lot easier than. Granted, JMU is going group of 5, but who knows how the defense kind of regresses in terms of numbers this next year. And then is Hetherman stuck trying to grow it? And I mean, it's hard to go from FCS to FBS. And if you have an opportunity to go coach with your former head coach and make more money and be in a position, linebacker coaches tend to kind of make that next step. That's a pretty solid, position coach on the defensive end. So yeah, it's not a step down. If anything, it's a lateral move with more money. And I'm not faulting anyone for making a lateral move with more money because I've made that in my career.
I would be fascinated to see what the actual like paycheck differences are and what the comparison is. But like I'm sure Rutgers is paying pretty well in the Big Ten. So I think that's an interesting point. It's also like his resume doesn't get deleted. Like if someone's like he's been a defensive coordinator for multiple years at different places and had a ton of success, you add that in with like maybe a good group of linebackers in the Big Ten, like it stands to reason he could potentially get that job. You look at Harrisimiak, he was a head coach at Maine, decided to take like a position coach job at Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a step down. I'll say that. That's a step. That was a head scratcher.
But now he's the defensive coordinator at Rutgers. So it's like there are paths to get through these different things. And I mean, Schiano is a well-connected coach. I think that even that could be a benefit. So is Signetti, but I think it's a solid, fine move for the guy. Like I thought it was weird when people were like, "Oh, I can't believe he would ever do this." Why, like JMU defensive coordinator, you're basically going to be a Power 5 head coach in a year because we're the best team in the country. It's like everybody just like calm down because you don't know the finances, you don't know like personal reasons, and also he could still very clearly go on a different path. Maybe he wants to coach linebackers for 20 years. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It was just weird when people were like, "Oh, I can't even believe this."
I feel like we saw that a few other times. What coach left? I feel like there was another coach that recently left, and we kind of saw the same reaction. But I have no idea, so I'm not gonna.
Oh, the Shane Montgomery left to be the offensive coordinator at Buffalo, right? People were like, "We're as good as Buffalo." It's like, all right, well, he decided to leave. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But also interesting is the fact that they're going to have to hire a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's going to be big because the defense has been one of the best in the nation at the FCS level for now since Hetherman got there and then even before Hetherman during the Houston era. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they fill that role, see what players kind of change. I wonder if they'll still run the 3-3-5 stack and all that good stuff. But it's kind of an important hire. You want continuity when you're moving from FCS to FBS, and now all of a sudden you lost arguably your most important coordinator.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Brian Haynes, too, was like technically linebackers and co-defensive coordinator last year. If you're looking for an internal bump up, he would obviously make a ton of sense. So I wouldn't be stunned if they did something like that, just because they also did that when I didn't think they would for the offensive coordinator role, when they had some internal candidates that obviously were really good. They went with Mike Shanahan after Montgomery left. So
that's a Super Bowl winning head coach. Kind of, that's who you go with.
that was pretty obvious one. But they've got the other thing that's kind of interesting too is because he's moving on to be a position coach. My guess is that they wouldn't like poach a bunch of other JMU coaches.
Yeah.
I think you could still keep your defensive staff mostly intact, which could be valuable.
Yeah. Love it. I think that's all we have on football this episode. Not too much.
So.
Do you want to jump over to basketball?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, before we do, we have a quick word from another sponsor. This one is this episode's packed full of sponsors. We're bringing in that money at 1 cent per listen. What's more important than peace of mind? Nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you're online. And with all the threats that you face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN that you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service. How many times can I say VPN? Offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either, and plans start at under $4 per month. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe or use the code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus one additional month free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So basketball. How many times did I say VPN during that read? Jeez Louise.
I think that was smart to just like throw the company name at the listeners as many times as you can. Like, you know what? Like wake up at 2 a.m. NordVPN. So I think it's going to work. I think it'll stick. And hey, if we're both betting guys, if you're looking for a little, a little skirt around, that's probably not what they want you to use it for. But if it's illegal,
does it work for that?
I think you can make it where it thinks you're in a state when you're not, or something. If you use a VPN properly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Too bad all my VPNs for works are connected to New York servers. So, well, it's legal in New York now.
Yeah.
All right, basketball. Let's not talk about degeneracy over here.
All right, so we're recording this on Thursday. The men's team plays at Northeastern, trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak. Don't have a ton on the guys. Tacoma Olsen's
it would be the first 3-game losing streak in the Byington era.
Yeah, that would be disappointing. Tacoma Olsen's out for the year, which is kind of sad. Worth noting. It's I'm feeling a little bummed about the state of basketball, but I think next year when they have a chance to actually have an automatic bid.
I mean, an at-large too. Everyone has
a chance, right? That's a great point. No, but next year when they can win the Sun Belt and get an automatic berth potentially, I think that'll be worth tracking and potentially very interesting if the Conference USA teams. I don't know if that's just football or if they can't get in all sports immediately. That'd be fascinating because if you don't have Old Dominion and Marshall for basketball, like next year, JMU, the Sun Belt should be up there for the taking, you would think.
Yeah, because the Sun Belt has App State as their best team right now.
It's not a great. I think Texas State's had an okay year.
The Sun Belt's worse than the CAA.
They have overtaken it on Ken Pom.
Sun Belt's overtaken CAA?
Barely, yeah. South Alabama. They're doing some great things offensively. But yeah, Appalachian State, I guess they do lead the conference by a lot. Texas State has really faltered. So Appalachian State, I think like JMU goes into the Sun Belt. I think JMU immediately, even with ODU and Marshall, like you should be trying to win the league every year.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it is key that they get a 5. But we harped on that, I think, a little bit too much last episode where we were talking about roster management and lack of size and everything. They just really need to get a they need to get a
so
big
bad.
transfer portal. And then if they get anyone over 6'10", I will go on record the second they sign him in the transfer portal, or even if it's a recruit.
Freshman.
Even as a freshman, if they get someone over 6'10", I'll go on record saying they win the Sun Belt. Before even having them play a Sun Belt game, if they just get it, and if I'm not mistaken, Molson has another year of eligibility, right?
I think so. See, that's another point that's kind of fascinating. It's like, is he coming back? Is Falden coming back? Soule, like those matter. What's going to happen there? Do they also? I don't know. And then the other thing too is like with the transfer portal, you could have guys who like you don't realize are going to leave that end up leaving.
Yeah, like Christmas last season.
Yep. So that's another one to keep an eye on because someone like Terrence Edwards has come on crazy strong of late. I imagine there might be some other teams that come calling. So interesting to see who they'll be able to keep and all that good stuff because they got some guys that I like. They just, like you mentioned, kind of lack that size down low. But hopefully they can avoid the 3-game losing streak. I will say Ken Palm got him projected to finish the year for the last 10 games to go 4-6. And that's kind of combining all the win probabilities. If you base it off of just his game by game, he has him going 2-8 in the last 10.
Cool.
It could be a battle here down the stretch. I'll say that. There's without Molson, you got some really tough road games. I mean, they're going to Delaware, to Hofstra, to Drexel, to Towson, to Charleston. Like it's to UNCW. They play almost all 7 of their final 10 are on the road. So it could be tough the rest of the way. We'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely a challenging slate ahead.
Now I just got really sad for the future of not the future of the program, but the future of this season.
I'd love to see him get to like secure a winning record. Looks like they're going to play 29 to go at least 15-14. That's not all that great, but
it's certifiably crazy the fall off this team has had since their COVID pause.
Yeah.
And I would say that their level of opponent hasn't changed drastically pre-pause to post-pause. If we're talking about like average Ken Palm rating, it's probably very roughly similar. I don't know if I can chalk it up to the COVID pause though. Like, did they just regress to the mean and were they just outplaying? I think this is the question we'll answer on this podcast, and then we'll wrap it up. But did they just regress to the mean after that COVID pause? Did the COVID pause really throw a wrench in them that much? Were they really outplaying their expectations by that much at the beginning of the season? Like, what do you think happened?
I think they had gotten and the way you define like luck on Ken Palm is not like lucky breaks or bounces necessarily. It's just like if you're winning a bunch of really close games, there's like an element of luck, and Ken Palm has them as the 17th like luckiest team in college basketball. And in some ways they kind of are, right? They had like that Old Dominion game that could have gone either way, but that one they sort of earned. The Eastern Kentucky game they should have lost. Eastern Kentucky's up 1, I believe, with the ball inbounding. They throw it away. They had the Charles Falden put back layup, and then they go down and essentially missed a layup at the end of the game too. It seemed like whether it was contested or not, I don't know. The George Mason game was a rock fight. They ended up winning. Wright State, they only beat by 2. Like Florida Atlantic was really close. Virginia game could have gone either way. Like so many of their wins, they could have lost. And then you look at some of these losses where it's like close loss to Hofstra, close loss to UNCW, close loss to Drexel. It's like, yeah, like you're not going to win every close game. That's not how it works. Like you want a team that when they're playing a team like Elon or William and Mary, you don't go to overtime with William and Mary, you beat them by 20. Or you don't lose by 20 on the road to Elon. You find a way to eke out like a 6-point win. So that's my opinion, is like they were never actually that elite. They just got to a point early in the year where it's like they were going to be in pretty much every game, and they were executing pretty well down the stretch. But I don't know, I feel like there's this idea that's like, well, they should be able to do that all the time. It's like, that's just not really how it works ever.
I think it's a really good way to put it. They weren't lucky. They didn't have lucky breaks. They just won a lot of close games. And now they're losing those close games.
Exactly. And quick women's note.
Okay.
They got Elon and William Mary on the road this weekend. kind of interested to see how they finish it out, because Sean O'Regan was pretty honest in the latest O'Neill's thing. He was like, look, like, we don't have Claire Neff and Peyton McDaniel, like, no offense to anyone else, but probably two of our three best players.
And also, we're playing for quite literally nothing.
Yeah. So I think next year is going to be, if they can actually get healthy, you're looking at Kiki Jefferson, Peyton McDaniel, Claire Neff, Anna Goodman. Like, that's a really good group of players. And we've said this for like 5 years, where it's just like, if they can get healthy. But if they can get healthy, I think next year's going to be cool. But I'm still really interested to see how they finish the year, because I think their goal should be a winning record overall. They're 9-10 right now. I think both teams, they finish with a winning record. Whatever, you regroup in the offseason, you add some necessary transfers and recruits, and then you get ready to go compete in the Sun Belt that really isn't that much different or that much harder. And I think next year could be really successful for the basketball programs.
I love that outlook. I do think it's hilarious, though, that you're pretty much reciting back what you said last year about the women's team.
The health.
Last year, this is the perfect COVID team. They're coming together. This is the perfect COVID year. This year doesn't matter because they're getting back. And now here you are. They're injured, but hear me out. Next year, when they're all back together in a Sun Belt that they can compete in.
This women's basketball is hard to discuss a little bit, because like there's still this like wanting the Coach O era to end in the NCAA tournament and have like that result. But they got so screwed with injuries and COVID in the past, where like we would probably look at the team and the program so differently if they had, like, remember that one year where they were doing like simulations with COVID, and the like simulator on ESPN had JMU like in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that was Kamaya's senior year with Lexi, and like, and then the year before that was the year that Lexi and Kamaya like broke their bodies the day before the conference tournament. No, Lexi broke her wrist, I think it was, in the first minute of the conference tournament. Kamaya got injured in the game before the conference tournament. Jackie Benitez ended up taking 55 shots and hit 2 of them. Like, that was that year. Then the next year was COVID. 2018 was a bad loss to Elon. 2017 was a bad loss to Elon.
Right.
No, I think it was Elon, then a bad loss to, like, I don't recall completely. That was so long ago. That was a whole pandemic.
They had the one with the injuries. I don't remember what year it was. They like lost to Hofstra or whatever. Like a really bad Hofstra team. That was
the, I think JMU was like 2. They had lost to Drexel a few times during the regular season. They were the 2 seed, but then they were decimated by injuries. This was 2019, because then next year they have no Benitez, but it's Lexi and Kamaya, and then they're really, 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 really good. And then COVID hit, and then that's when they were the Sweet 16 team. Then last year they lose.
Yeah, last year they just like were really young and never actually became like one of the best teams in the league, but they were like solid. And it was like, oh yeah, we'll just see them grow. And then this year the injuries killed them, and the shooting was just rough.
Was abysmal, and they didn't know how to move. They still don't really know how to move the basketball around the court and create shots. But last year they couldn't play defense.
Yes, and then they
lose
did
like 85-83.
Yeah, they've seemed to make some strides there, but they're shooting 24% from 3, which just isn't going to cut it. So they got to get better there. But it's like, it's so frustrating too, because the same thing with like Kamaya, where like she missed out on. It's like, did she not play in a tournament game?
She never played in a tournament game.
That's crazy. Like how good she was compared to like the rest of the league. It's the same thing with Kiki Jefferson. It's like she's one of the best players in the league. She's averaging, what is she, 18.5 and 7 rebounds a game.
She's so fun to watch too. She is electric to watch.
She's so good. She leads the team in blocks. She's got a bunch of steals. She leads the team in assists. Like she does so many things incredibly well. She hasn't shot the 3 all that great this year. It's like the one thing she hasn't done, but everything else she's been really, really solid. And to not have it, amounting to anything is obviously frustrating. Because early on when they beat UVA, they did some stuff, even though they didn't have any assists. It was like, all right, well, you never know. Like maybe they'll pick up a bunch of wins and find a way to like force themselves into an at-large conversation. Has not happened. The injuries have been tough, but it's a program I would like to see kind of get back into that NCAA tournament picture, because they're really fun to watch, you know?
Yes.
And,
anything else you got to add?
No, because I think we're still a couple weeks away. You're looking at the 19th, I think, for I want to say maybe baseball is the 18th, but 19th for 19th for softball, 18th for baseball in terms of start dates. So I think that's still like a 2 podcasts away or something like that for a full preview, maybe.
Yeah, I think once the season starts, we'll do the preview, not like a preseason, because
And then we're like 3 weeks away.
The beginning of Diamond Duke season is always just kind of, I don't want to say a headache. Like, you jump right into the football season. When you start losing games, like, you need to know what's going to happen at the beginning of the football season. You need to know what's going to happen at the start of the basketball season. You don't need to know what's going to happen. Like, we can do a season preview once the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then also we have tentatively have a guest lined up for maybe mid-February.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one.
To talk a little Chase DeLauder, because people have been clamoring for Chase DeLauder talk. So keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on the basketballs, but extremely tough. And I guess lacrosse maybe we'll talk at some point too, but extremely tough to get overly excited here when they're not even allowed in the conference tournament, because the basketball seasons are going to end when the final game ends. There's no like unknown.
CBI, baby. It might become calling.
I don't even think they're calling, man. They just write their resume.
Well, if you look at what VCU did, VCU did that. They won the CBI, and then the next year they're in the Final Four. That's the recipe.
I don't think we're getting in the CBI. I think we're outside.
We're going to win out. We're going to win out, and then
they're going to win out. If they do win out, that'd be sick. That's like the only thing that would really excite me is if they got 10 games left. If they win 8 of those and hit 20 wins, I'd be hyped. But
if they
playing defense,
20 games, they're an NIT team. Book it.
No, they're not an NIT team.
They're not an NIT team. I know. They'd be like a 150 10-pom team. Whatever. All right. For Bennett Conlon, my name's Jack Fitzpatrick. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya. Oh, wait. Also, the JMU Sports News Podcast is brought to you by Bet Online. See ya.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.